Welcome to the Azura Media Club, home of the Bad Girl Coven. Today, here we're talking about Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. I'm your Coven leader, Emily. Let's go. Alright, so Temple of Doom. Often seen as a bad Indiana Jones movie, or some people even say it's worse than Crystal Skull. And I'm sure nowadays people say it's even worse than the fifth movie there. Or maybe they won't sink that low, but honestly, I don't understand that. It's kind of the, I had this thought while watching it, it's kind of the Return of the Jedi of Indiana Jones movies, you know, to where it's like everyone kind of bags on it and dogs on it a little bit, but it's still a great movie at the end of the day. I really liked this movie. I really had a good time with this movie whilst watching said movie. Now, I know, like, there are some slow moments. You know, there are, like, again, it's a little bit longer than the first movie, so they could have definitely done some stuff to cut down a little bit of the runtime, you know? The minecart scene at the end is, like, very long. Spoilers for Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, by the way, and all the other Indiana Jones movies. I shouldn't have to say this. You've seen Temple of Doom. If you haven't, go watch it. It's a good movie. You know, despite contrary beliefs popular belief, you know what I'm saying. But I like it. I think there obviously are some flaws. Nothing huge, but like, I guess the other two movies kind of focus on historical artifacts that really are very culturally significant and have a religious significance as well. And I know this movie has these stones, which I assume are probably based on some real stones or some legend or something. You know, some Asian legend, but I have no knowledge of that. I mean, which is fine, you know, that's great that the movie is teaching me something about a different culture. Cool, I'm all for it. Just saying it's not as, like, iconic as, to me anyway, as, like, the Lost Ark or, like, the Holy Grail. Like, everyone knows that shit, right? So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. I'm just saying that the stakes from the beginning aren't as high and engaging, you know? It's like, what it's really about, like, what they really set up that this is all about is this village, right? So it's like, it's not even like saving the world or stopping the Nazis or something. There are no Nazis in this movie as far as I can recall. But you know, that's okay. I mean, this is technically a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, so it takes place a couple years beforehand or whatever. And it's like, so, you know, also we know Indy's gonna make it out of this one, but I always hate that mentality. Is like, oh, well, there's a sequel, so we know he's gonna make it out. Fuck that shit. I hate that. I hate it when people do that. You know, it's like, you gotta be in the moment. You gotta be present in the movie. You gotta just believe. You have to be immersed in the movie, you know? So, and there's a lot of times in this movie where it's like, yeah, you know, Indy definitely could have, like, died, or somebody important could have died. There's a lot of dark scenes in this movie later on, and some of those are some really good scenes in the movie. Like, I think most of the stuff in the Temple of Doom segment of the movie, which is like the last, you know, part of the movie before they escape there, is like some of the best stuff in the movie. I definitely always get a little emotional when he drinks, like, the evil blood or whatever, and then he, like, goes under the spell, and you know, like, it's not even about Marion, like, or, I'm sorry, Marion, she's not in this movie, what am I saying? It's not even about Willie, like, she's annoying the whole movie, and I get it, it's kind of crazy that she's, like, almost gonna be lowered into this flame thing, but, like, at that point, after all he's gone through, I think Indiana Jones might have just been like, let her go, but, like, when he, like, hits Short Round and stuff, that's what gets me, man. Like, I love Short Round. He's, like, one of my favorite Indiana Jones characters. Such an underrated character because, I mean, I think a lot of people love Short Round, but, like, he doesn't get any recognition in the later movies. Like, I feel like, you know, other characters in this series get recognition in later movies, and it's just like, you don't ever see Short Round again, which is really disappointing. I think he would have made a good character for the later movies, but it's like, they set this up in this movie, which is the second movie, and we know we haven't seen him in Raiders of the Lost Ark, so I'm assuming they're just like, oh, well, Short Round's gone now, you know, there's none of that. Also, Willie, we never see her again, so, like, I don't know what's up with that. Like, I feel like they just wanted to pretend like this one didn't exist and kind of write it off or whatever. It was more of a side story or something to the main Indiana Jones stuff, and I feel like that's what a lot of fans do, too. Also, it could be because of the whole PG-13 thing. Yeah, if you didn't know, this movie is rated PG, or was rated PG. I think they probably changed it to PG-13, but even on the disc, I think it still says PG. And it's like, dude, there are some, like, dark-ass scenes later in this movie where there's, like, torture and fire, and it's, like, the pits of hell and shit. Inside the Temple of Doom there, a guy rips a guy's heart out, like, twice. That happens. There's a lot of violence against kids in this movie. There's, like, so many ridiculously dark things in this movie. And, like, part of the whole thing is not even about getting these stones back. I mean, that's an important thing to the movie because they're, like, these sacred artifacts to this village and whatnot. But their kids were all stolen. So, and they're all working in this mine, like child slave labor or whatever. It's, like, it's really messed up, you know? Like, of course, at the end of the day, Indiana Jones, like, saves the kids and he gets the stones back to the village, or one of the stones. They are stoned anyway. The other two get, like, washed down the river or something. So, yeah, so, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a happy ending. Everything works out, you know, but, like, you know, just some of that stuff that happens in the middle there, the adventure along the way is just really messed up. And I get there's not as much, like, scene variety and that kind of stuff, as there was in the original movie there, but I think for what they had and what they did, and some of the effects that they did are just, like, really cool, like, really top-notch, like, practical stuff there. I just really appreciate a lot of that. Stuff that I don't appreciate is, like, when they're doing, like the very beginning of the movie, when they're, like, not the very beginning, the little bit after the beginning of the movie where they're, like, in the plane and they, like, go down on a raft. And it's like, okay, maybe that's believable if you, like, hit the ground there. I mean, it's still probably not that believable. Then they go off, like, this giant-ass fucking, like, cliff, and then they land in the water. It's like, at some point there, you'd be really fucked, you know? You would definitely have sustained some injuries there. But they're just fine. Like, that whole segment's a little cheesy. To stark contrast to, like, the rest of the movie that's, like, actually really gory and gruesome in a lot of bits, you know? It's like, so, it's really odd, you know? Like, stuff like that I would have maybe fixed, you know? You don't have to have them going off, like, a giant cliff. You could just have them go off a smaller cliff that's more believable into a river. Like, I'm totally down with that. Like, I guess there was less, like, treasure hunting aspects in this one. It's more so just, it's a pretty straightforward adventure, and I could see to where that kind of makes for a lesser movie as well. I mean, that didn't really bother me. I guess in that sense, it feels a little bit looser with its story stuff, because, like, the whole thing is just like, oh, we need to go to this palace to get these stones back, and then they're in the palace, they find, behind a statue, a thing that leads them to the Temple of Doom, which is, like, under the palace, I guess, and that's kind of it. They don't really go to a lot of locations. They start in, I think, China or something, and they're like, there's, like, this scene with this dance and all this stuff, and then you find out Indiana Jones is in, like, this club, and the guy, like, is negotiating with them. He, like, spins around the diamond with the coins and whatever, and then he's, like, there's, like, a drink there, and Indy drinks it, and he gives him the thing, and he's like, what? He, like, holds up a little vial, like, what's this? The antidote to what? The poison you just drank. It's like, it's so stupid. That's another lie this would meme to hell, but it's funny. It's great. It's a great scene, and, you know, him escaping, getting the poison back for Willie and all that. Like, oh my god, like, and she just will not shut the fuck up. Like, later on in the Temple of Doom scenes, like, totally rational, but she just, like, screams the whole movie for the most part. Definitely not one of the better indie girls. And I know I'm not really selling this movie very well, but, I don't know. Like, she's kind of unnecessary, you know? Like, I feel like the heart of the movie is more Short Round and Indy and their interactions, and he's funny, and he's also, you know, he's also responsible for this kid, which is nice. You know, it's like, I don't know, that just means more to me, I guess. You don't want to see the kid die. You can't see that. That's messed up. There's all sorts of, like, stuff later where it's like, they're like, they got, like, voodoo and stuff, like, the kid, the little prince kid is, like, keeps, like, he's got, like, this smile on his face while he's, like, jabbing Indy, and he's like, ah, and he's like, you know, oh man, it's messed up. But some of that stuff's pretty cool. Really good action scenes. They just go on for a little bit too long in some places. This movie could have been the length of Raiders of the Lost Ark, I tell you, had they trimmed it down a little bit. And I think we'd have a significantly better movie for it. Not that what we have now isn't great, because it is, but, you know, it can't reach the heights of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But, you know, it also was a sequel to that. It had to live up to that, you know, and I think the fact that they played it in a different direction and actually went in a darker direction is a bold move on their part, you know, so, I liked it. I think how we take a little pivot from what could be considered like a typical Indiana Jones adventure is cool, you know? I mean, I think that's neat that they did that, you know? They didn't just play it safe and make 3 of the same kind of movies, you know? They did a really sort of very different movie that still retains a lot of the cool Indiana Jones isms. There's a great scene near the end where there's like these 2 guys spinning the blades, and you're thinking, oh man, it's just like the first movie, and then he like goes for his holster, he's like, wait, my gun's not there, and you're like, ah, they're calling out the first movie! It's like, I know it hasn't happened yet, but like, we know that, because we saw that, you know? I don't know, that one really got me. I'm like, oh my god, dude, that's just like in the first movie. It's like, I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. Stuff like that, just like, the whole movie is just real crazy, and a lot more of the supernatural sort of elements that were like only sort of prominent in the first one, you know, a little bit prominent in the next one as well, but yeah, then like the scene at the end where he's like, now you understand the power of the stone. He's like, yeah, I get it. I understand. It's powerful. You know, so like, you know, it's like kind of calls back to the first movie too. Is like, he doesn't, how did he see all of this? And he's like, I don't believe in that magic voodoo bullcrap. It's like, it's a little inconsistent with the tone of like what he said in the first one, but I don't know. But I still really liked it. I just think it's also a very good Indiana Jones movie that often gets destroyed from people, from the critics especially. Just like, people just really don't like this movie. A lot of people like it less than Crystal Skull, which, like, I haven't seen that in a while, but like, I remember it being okay, but like, this is a great Indiana Jones movie. It really should, it deserves to be part of the original trilogy, you know? It definitely is the weakest of the 3, but it stands with them as a great Indiana Jones movie, and a classic Indiana Jones movie. It feels like a classic Indiana Jones movie, which some of the other later Indiana Jones movies don't have those kind of elements to it, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, I really appreciate Temple of Doom. I know it has its underbelly warts, you know, and whatnot, but like, I think it's cool still. I still really like it. It's darker, and yeah, like I was saying earlier, it kind of led to the creation of like the PG-13 rating, because like it was like considered to be a PG movie at the time, which like, really doesn't make a lot of sense. But lots of great action, actually some good emotion, which I don't really know if there was a lot of that in the first one. I remember there being some, but like I don't know, I really feel those moments later, you're like, oh man, how's he gonna get out of this, you know, with this like all this stuff down there in the Temple of Doom and whatnot. How's he gonna get the other people out and the kids out and like, you know, wrap everything else up nicely to save the day and have everything work, you know? And he does it. He fights his way through it, and it's cool. It's a good little Indiana Jones adventure for sure. Yeah, like I said, the effects are cool. The visuals, a little bit less location variety, but that's still fine. You know, you're a little bit more focused at that rate. The music also really solid. You know, maybe not as like classic as the first one, but it really serves its purpose. You know, still has all the classic hues there and whatnot. It's still really good. Yeah, great second movie. You know, great follow-up to the original movie, which is ironically also a prequel to the original movie. But, you know, like, I feel like they did that just so they didn't have to focus on Nazis and stuff. Like, you know, because it's like in the first movie, it was so focused on their, like, the enemy, you know, so they wanted kind of a different enemy. Even though, like, had this been after the first movie, like, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal, because, sure, you're not dealing with Nazis, but you're dealing with these people, you know, this, like, sort of removed from the public tribe, you know, or whatnot. So, yeah. But, I don't know. I think it's good. That's really all there is to it. It's actually a good Indiana Jones movie after all the time of me being told this is a bad movie and it's worse than Crystal Skull and all this stuff, you know? It's like, no, I really enjoyed this one, you know? I still had a good time watching this movie. Is it too long in some parts? Yeah, so is the first one. And so is the later movies, you know? Especially the later movies. And I get the vibes of Indiana Jones much more than I do the two last movies, the 4 and 5, you know. And yeah, when you're comparing 5 to something like this, you're like, okay, well, it doesn't feel as much like Indiana Jones. And sure, I can understand that. 5 actually feels a lot more like 4 in a lot of regards, but also not. So, I don't know. But it still retains a lot of good elements. Temple of Doom there from the and that's what I'm saying. It feels like a classic Indiana Jones movie, and that's kind of some of the magic of the movie. So I really appreciate that about it. Harrison Ford is still great. All of the actors are still pretty good. Gotta love Short Round. I mean, that right there is already a great aspect of the movie. Is Short Round. He's great. Lily's okay. She's not as good as like Marion or anybody, but she's all right. You know, she yells a lot. That's kind of annoying, but she's really prissy, so she kind of gets really grossed out by everything. But you know, had I been in those situations, I mean, there's like bugs everywhere, and she's like grabbing into the thing. She's like, eh. I mean, I think I would have done it at that point because I'm saving Indiana Jones. You know, even if there was bugs or mice in there, but I'd be saving somebody's life, so I would have done it. So, but yeah, good humor, good tone, like darkness and you know, all of that, like the later stuff. Good motion, good everything. You know, it's a good movie. Indiana Jones movie, a great Indiana Jones movie. Not a perfect Indiana Jones movie, but it's a great one. So, you know, I'm gonna give it like an 8.7 out of 10, because I really enjoyed it. I don't think it really deserves like a 10. Like I said, I know there's some aspects of it I don't really particularly love, you know, but I still think it's really, really solid. Like, it's still a really great Indiana Jones movie. I think it deserves a little bit more love from the fans. Everyone seems to write this one off. It's kind of like, you know, like I said, like the Return of the Jedi, or like, I don't know, the Ghostbusters 2 of the franchise, so underrated. I like it. Temple Doom's really good. So, yeah. Till next time, this has been Emily saying, don't forget to subscribe, stick around, hang out, join the Bad Girl Coven, you know, and, you know, so you can see more videos and whatnot. And, never forget that magic comes from the heart. Emily, out.